Hey, what's up, friends? How y'all doing? It's good to be back with you on Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Nun Vav of Masechta Shabbos, Daf 156. Now, Chevra, there are 157 dafim in Masechta Shabbos, so that would make this the second to last daf in Masechta Shabbos. This daf, at the beginning we talk a little bit about what we ended up with yesterday, which was talking about like kneading different like doughs and stuff. So exciting stuff, but it's not going to last for too long. And then we spent a lot of time talking about like constellations and signs, which, I don't know, if you're interested in it, then it's going to be interesting. So here we go. Daf Kuf Nun Hey Amud Beis, all the way at the bottom. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Ein Govlin Es HaKoli, Peishom Govlin. Okay. So we have a brayso that says that we may not need Koli. And, okay, so what is this? This is like if you take, like, I don't know, different kernels of, like, grain, like barley, chveisnish, I don't know, maybe, like, wheat, and then you, like, it's moist, and then you dry it out in an oven, you make, like, a flour out of it, and then you add, like, water and salt, some kind of a porridge epis, something like that. So the question is, this specific kind of mixture, can you knead it together on Shabbos? So the Tanna Kama says no. There's a Yesh Omrim, there's an additional opinion that says yes. Okay. Man Yesh Omrim, Omer Rav Chizda, Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehudai. Okay, so who is this Yesh Omrim that says that you're allowed to knead this koli? Now, Rashi also says that this koli is what's called shtis, right? Now, it came up in Masechta Brachos a little bit, whatever, it's some kind of a porridge of sorts, okay? So Rav Chizda says that the opinion who holds that you would be allowed to knead this kind of dough, porridge, batter, mixture thing is Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda, because Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda is the one who says that, you know, when it comes to a dough, or when it came to yesterday with the bran and the water, you can pour water into it, right? In order for you to be chayav for kneading, you really have to knead it. You know, he's more makpid on, he has a stricter interpretation of what it actually means to knead something. And therefore, or I guess more lenient depending how you look at it, but the point is, it really has to be more of a real kneading, and therefore he says just pouring water into flour is not enough. And he's going to say also, when it comes to this mixture, I guess it doesn't all come together very well, and therefore even if you knead it on Shabbos, it's not really going to be considered kneading, and therefore you would be allowed to knead this kind of porridgey kind of thing. V'hani mile hu de mishane. However, he doesn't just give you a free ticket. You can't just push it, knead together this porridge kind of thing. You'd have to do some kind of a change from your regular manner that you would do it. Heichi mishane. How do you make this change? Am Rav Chizda al yad al yad. Says Rav Chizda by just doing it in little bits. So you could knead together a little bit of this shtisa thing, and then a little bit more, and then after that a little bit more than that, like that. V'shavin shebochshin es ashtis. Now, interestingly, the brayso then continues, meaning the brayso started off by saying ein govlin es hakoli v'yeshom govlin. So there's a machlokas when it comes to this shtisa thing. Can you knead it together? Tanna Kama says no. We're saying there's a yeshom. We're saying is Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda says yes. Now continues that brayso, and it says v'shavin shebochshin es ashtis b'Shabbos. And they both agree that you're allowed to mix together this shtis on Shabbos. V'shosim zeisum hamitzri, and that you could drink this zeisum hamitzri thing, which is some kind of a drink that is also just like a regular drink that people drink, but it also has healing purposes, like medicinal benefits. We say you could drink that because like you drink it anyways, even without the medicinal benefits. But what do we see? V'amart ein govlin. 1 second. At the beginning of the brayso and the reisha, we're saying it's machlokas between the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda. Can you knead this shtisa thing? And then we're saying v'shavin shebochshin es shtis, that everyone agrees that you're allowed to mix together this shtis. What's going on? I thought we just said that it's machlokas. Now we're saying everyone agrees. Like, why you got to be so confusing, Ki'ilu? Lokasha ha'ba'ava ha'baraka. So the Gemara answers, it's no problem. When the Reisha says that it's machlokas, that is when it's a thicker kind of batter. And there, the Tanna Kama says that you would not be allowed to knead it together. And Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda says that you may. And then we said, as long as they have a shinoi, seder. However, when it is a thinner shtisa, well then everyone agrees that you would be allowed to mix it together. Vanimile hu demishani, but still you'd have to do some kind of a shinoi, some kind of, a kila achar yad to make it a little bit different. Heichi mishane, how do you make it different? Amar Rav Yosef, said Rav Yosef, b'chol nosen es hachometz v'achakach nosen es hashtis. Well, generally when you prepare this porridge thing during the week, so first you would add vinegar, and then later on you would add this, flour mixture. B'Shabbos nosen es hashtis v'achakach nosen es hachometz. If you're preparing it on Shabbos, so just flip it around. First add this flour stuff, and then add this vinegar. Okay, seder. Very nice. Okay, friends, well, now you know how to make shtisa on Shabbos. Well, I guess. Well, yeah, okay. Levi brei d'Rav Huna bar Chia ashkeche legabala d'vei noshe dika gavil v'safile l'tore. Very nice. So, Levi brei d'Rav Huna bar Chia. So, Levi, the son of Rav Huna bar Chia, fine. Ashkeche legabala d'vei noshe. He found the kneader of his father's house, meaning he would prepare all the food for the animals. So he would take care of the animals, and he would also prepare their food. And by doing that, he would take, bran and water and mix it together. And the Gavil v'Safile l'Toreh, and Levi brei d'Rav Huna bar Chia saw that this person in charge of the animals was kneading together the water and bran for the ox on Shabbos. Now, the Mishnah had said, what did the Mishnah say? V'nosn ma'im lemursan aval lo govlin. Our Mishnah had said that while you're allowed to add water to bran, and we said that was Reb Yossi, Reb Yehuda, who says that you're allowed to add water to the bran. However, you wouldn't be allowed to mix it together. Now, this fellow was mixing the bran with the water. So, Batash Bey. So, Levi didn't have any patience for this insanity, and he got very upset with the person in charge of the animals of his father's house. Asa Avua, but then Levi's father came, who is Rav Huna bar Chia, Ashkeche, and he found Levi. Amar le, and he said to Levi, Achi Amar Avua de Imach, this is what your mother's father said, i.e. your grandfather. Mishmei de Rav, in the name of Rav, Umanu, who was his grandfather, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. So this Levi brei d'Rav Huna bar Chia's grandfather was Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. Now this is not Levi, because as we're going to learn in another few minutes, Levi was a student of Rebbe, and this was talking about the grandson of somebody who was a student of Rav, who was obviously later than that. Okay. Al Kopanim. So Rav Huna bar Chia said to his son Levi that this is what your grandfather Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba said in the name of Rav, Govlin vilo misafin, that you would be allowed to mix together this bran and water, but just do not force it down an animal's throat so far down that it cannot hock it up. Udilo lakit bilishne mahalkitin lei. And if you have an animal that is unable, if you have like a young calf that is unable to eat on its own, so then you can feed the animal. Okay, but probably just a place where it can still hock it up. V'hani mile hu demeshane. But so we said that you would be allowed to mix together, right? So we said that Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba was saying in the name of Rab that govlin, that you would be allowed to mix it together, but you would have to make a shinoi. Heichi mishane, how do you make a shinoi? Amar Rav Yemar bar Shlamim mishmei da Abaye shesi ve'erev. The shinoi that you should make is that when you are mixing together this bran and water, don't mix it in circles, like the regular way that you mix. Make it in crosses, right? Taking the metaphor from our loom, right? Like you have the vertical threads and the horizontal threads. So that's what you should do when you're mixing. Just go straight and then perpendicular, like that. But 1 second, but then you're not really going to do a good job. Amar of Yehuda Menaro L'chli. So if you would have said, well, at the same time, you can also be shaking around the vessel that you're mixing it in at the same time, and through your different methods, you will be able to get to a satisfactory level of mixing. Ksiva Pinksei de Zeiri. It was written on Zeiri's tablet. Because Zeiri had some kind of a tablet that he would write things on, and it was written in his tablet. Amaris Kadam Rebbe. And Zeiri says, look, I said in front of my teacher. Now the Gemara wants to know, Umanu, who was Zeiri's teacher? Rebbe Chia. So Zeiri's teacher was Rebbe Chia, which is also kind of interesting, because I've wondered in the past, is Zeiri Reb Zera? And I feel like sometimes I've seen before that like Rebbe Zeira maybe is Reb Zera. I don't know, maybe that's like the same person. But Reb Zera was a student of Rav Yehuda, and we're saying over here that Zeiri was a student of Reb Chia. Now, Reb Zera, I don't think would have been a student of Rabbi Chia, because Reb Zera was a student of Rav Yehuda, who was a student of Rav, who was the nephew of Reb Chia. So Mistama, Zeiri is sort of an older Amora, and this Zeiri was a student of Reb Chia. Fine. Sumau Legabel. So Zeiri says that he asked Reb Chia, are you allowed to knead together, like, I don't know, let's just say like bran and water on Shabbos? Amar Aser. He said, no, you can't. Ma'u lefarik. Can you take food from one animal and kind of put it in front of the other? Amar mutter. He said, yeah, that would be mutter. Okay, and we had seen that recently as well, right? We had said that you're allowed to take like donkey food and put it in front of the cow, but not cow in front of the donkey. Okay. Amar of Menashe, said Rav Menashe, Chad kame chad, trei kame trei, shapir dami, tlasa kame trei aser. Says Rav Menashe, you're allowed to put one portion of food in front of one animal and 2 portions of food in front of 2 animals, but don't put 3 portions of food in front of 2, because if during the week you wouldn't add so much food, so then on Shabbos there's no reason why you should be allowed to add more food than you would normally do during the week. Okay. Rav Yosef Amar kav afilu kabayim, ula Amar kor afilu korayim. Rav Yosef says, actually add as much food as you want. If you want to add, if you want to even give a kav to each animal, give a kav to each animal. It says ula, even if you want to add a kor or 2 to each animal, which we said yesterday, a kor was really quite a large amount, right? We said it was 144 eggs worths in a sa'ah, and there are 30 sa'ahs in a kor. So that makes I didn't do the math yesterday, but I said it was a lot. And I still hold by that. I still stand by that. But maybe let's try to do a better job. So if you do 144 and then times 10, so that would make 1,440. And then if you multiply that by 3, so then, I don't know, we're talking about probably about 4,200 eggs worths, something like that. That's a lot of eggs. 4,200 eggs? How many eggs can you eat? More than 5? We're talking about 4,200 eggs. That's like a bunch of eggs. And then Ula's saying even 2 cores. So that's if it's 4,200, well then that times 2 would be 8,400. That's a lot of eggs, friends. It's a lot of eggs. Ksiva Pinksei de Levi, it was written on the tablet of Levi. Amaris Kadam Rebbe, I said before my teacher, okay, Umanu, and who is Levi's teacher? Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Adavu Gavlin Shtisa Bebavel. And I was asking, so Levi says that he was asking Rebbe, about the fact that in Bavel, they would knead together this shtisa that we talked about at the beginning of the daf, like Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. Now, remember, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda said it was permitted, but Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda argues with Rebbe. Rebbe says that you would not be allowed to mix together this shtisa, particularly if it is thick. So, Vavatzavach Rebbe v'leis d'shmielei, and Rebbe would cry out and yell and scream, but nobody would listen to him in Bavel. V'leis chela b'yada l'meisa min Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda, and there was nothing the Rebbe could do about it, because the fact of the matter is that he's just one opinion in a two-person machlokas, and Rabbi Yehuda says that you would be allowed to knead this shtisa, and therefore, and the people in Bavel are doing like Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, and that's what they're doing. They're holding like a valid opinion, and there's not much that we can do about it. Ksiva Pinksei de Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, it was written on the tablet of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Oh, interesting. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi was the son of Levi. So we were just talking about Levi's tablet, and now we're talking about his son, Rabbi Yoshua's tablet. Okay. Somebody who's born on Sunday, on the first day of the week, he's going to be a person that has like only one in him. What does that mean? What does it mean that there will like only be one thing in him? If it means that he won't even have one good attribute to him, he will be rotten to the core. Rav Ashi says, I was born on Sunday. Rav Ashi says that he was born on Sunday, and clearly Rav Ashi was a good guy. No, what it means is that there won't be anything bad. You're just going to be a great guy like Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi points out that he's not the only one who was born on Sunday. Also, Dimi bar Kakuzta was born on Sunday. Who was that? And Rav Ashi says, look, while I am a king, I'm a Rosh Yeshiva, he is the head of thieves. So we seem to see that, not only great guys are going to be born on Sunday, also pretty rotten fellows are going to be born on Sunday. So Ella, ikule letivu, ikule levishu. Rather, if you're born on Sunday, you're going to be the head of something. Whether it's the head of the yeshiva or the head of the robbers, but you're going to be the head of something. Okay, fine. Right, it says, ikule letivu, ikule levishu. Either you're going to be entirely good or entirely bad, but nothing in between. Haman de betrei b'shaba, if you're born on Monday, yigvar ragzon. Well, you are going to be very angry. My time, how come you're going to be so angry? Mishum de ifligu bei maya. Well, because that was the day that the waters were separated from each other. The upper waters and the lower waters. So you are going to be a fellow who is separated from everybody else because you're an angry man. Haiman de bitlasa b'shaba. If you have a fellow who was born on Tuesday, yegvar osir vizanoi. A person born on Tuesday is going to be wealthy and promiscuous. My time, how come? Mishum de ivrubei asavim. Well, because Tuesday was the day that grass was created, and grass, it kind of spreads out all over the place, but also just without any kind of control. And this fellow is going to be all over the place without control. Haman debar ba'a b'shaba, somebody who's born on Wednesday, yegvar chokim, he's going to be a very smart man, v'nahir, and very radiant. My time, how come? Mishum de isnu be'me'oris, because Wednesday is the day that the luminaries were installed. And therefore, right, as Rashi says, v'torah or, that the pasuk says that a mitzvah is a candle and light is Torah, so he's going to be a great Torah scholar and a great Torah luminary. Haiman de b'chamisha b'shaba yegvar goma chasadim. Person who's born on Thursday is going to be a person who has chesed, who has good deeds, who does good deeds. My time, how come? Mishum de ibru bei dogim v'ofis, because on Thursday, that is when the fish and the birds were created, and they are fed by the kindness of God, and therefore, since they are sustained with kindness, this person who's born on Thursday will be a person who embodies kindness. Haiman de b'mayle shabsa yegvar chazron. Somebody who's born on Erev Shabbos, on a Friday, he's going to be a seeker. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak chazron b'mitzvahs. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says what this means is that he will be somebody who seeks mitzvahs. He's always going after mitzvahs, just like on Friday people are running around to prepare mitzvahs for Shabbos. Haiman de b'shabata yehei b'shabata yomus. A person who's born on Shabbos will die on Shabbos. And that is because people had to be Machal Shabbos for him to be born. So therefore he's going to die on Shabbos. As we saw a few weeks ago about how we could be Machal Shabbos in order to bring a baby into the world. Amar Rava by Rav Shila v'Kadisha Rabba Yiskari, and he will be called a very, very holy man. So somebody who's born on Shabbos will be a very holy man. Amar Lehu Reb Chanina Poku Amaru Le Levar Levoye. So Rabbi Chanina said to his students, go and tell Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Lo Mazal Yom Gorem El Mazal Shah Gorem. So Rabbi Chanina says to his students, hey, go tell Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi that he's got it all wrong. It doesn't matter what day of the week you're born, if you're born on a Sunday, a Monday, a Tuesday. What matters is what hour during the day you were born. Because as we saw a few weeks ago, I think it was on Kuf Chav Tesamud Beis, we saw that there are 7 constellations that are like always kind of going in cycles. Okay, there's like Mars and Jupiter and the Sun and the Moon, and so it doesn't depend like what day of the week. It depends what hour in the day and which sign was like during that hour. Haiman di Bechama, somebody who's born in the sign of the sun, Yehegvar Zivsan. The Bechama Yehe, Gvar Zivsan Yehe. So if he's born during the sign of the sun, well then he's going to be very radiant like the sun. Achil Midile, Vishasi Midile. He's going to eat his own food, he's going to drink his own drink, just like the sun doesn't overlap with the night. You have the sun during the day, and then the sun's gone during the night, and it comes back the next morning. So here also, he's going to have a person with boundaries. He's going to eat only his food and drink only his drinks. Virazoi Galyan, and all of his secrets will be revealed, just like the sun. Everything is revealed. Imganiv lo matzlach, if he tries to be a sneaky robber, he won't succeed. Haiman de bekochav noga, if a person is born during the sign of Venus, Yehei gvar osir vizanoi Yehei, so he's going to be a wealthy and promiscuous fellow. My time, how come? Mishum de isilid be nura, because Jupiter has fire, and therefore he's going to have a big fire of the Yetzer Hara. Haiman de bekochav Yehei gvar noyer v'chokim, somebody who is born during the sign of Mercury, so he's going to be very smart. Mishum de Safra de Chama, who, because Mercury is the secretary of the sun. Okay? Haiman de Bilavana Yehe, somebody who's born during the sign of the moon. Gvar Svil Mar'in, he's going to be somebody who suffers afflictions. Banoi v'sasir sasiu vanoi, he's going to build and destroy, and dismantle and build, just like the moon gets, waxes and wanes. Achil de lodile v'shasi de lodile, he's going to eat other people's food and drink other people's drinks, just like the moon kind of overlaps with the daytime, kind of comes out early. V'razoi kasyan, and his secrets will be hidden. Imganav matzlach, if he's a thief, he will be a successful thief. Haiman de b'shabta yehe, somebody who's born during the sign of Saturn. Gvar machshavte betelin, so he's going to be a person who his thoughts become, nothing comes of his thoughts. They're going to be batel, nullified. Those who say, kol de mechajvin ole betelin, those who say, no, any bad things that other people think about him will not come to fruition. Haman de B'tzedek, somebody born during Jupiter. I think I already said Jupiter, and I was wrong. When I said Jupiter before, I think maybe I said Jupiter before, but I meant to say Venus. So just rewind your minds a little bit. Do like a shtickle cut and paste kaze, and then fast forward again to here. So somebody who's born in the sign of Jupiter, well then, Yehe Gvar Tzadkan, he's going to be a righteous fellow who gives tzedakah. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, B'tzadkan b'mitzvahs, he's going to, b'tzadkan, i.e., he's going to give tzedakah to poor people. Haiman b'maidim yehei, so somebody who's born in the constellation of Mars. What if he's born on Mars? What if he's born on Mars, but like in the constellation of, let's say, like the moon? Then what happens? I guess we'll find out soon enough. Gvar Oshid Dama. So if he's born in the sign of Mars, he's going to be a bloody fellow. Amar Abaye, no. Amar of Ashi, I Umana, I Ganava, I Tabacha, I Mohala. What does that mean? He's going to be a bloody fellow? Well, he will be a bloodletter or a thief, as Rashi points out. Not a friendly thief, a murderous thief, or a shochet, or a mohel. Amar Rabba, Ana b'madim avoy. Rabba says, I was actually born during the sign of Mars. Amar Abaye, Mar nami anish v'katil. Well, you also punish and kill. Okay. I mean, as we did learn the other day, that Rabba was not very popular in his hometown of Pumbedisa because of all the mussar that he would give them. And the art scroll pointed out as well that from that story in Megillah where Rabba shechted Reb Zera and then brought him back to life. So Abaye says, it all makes sense now. Okay, very nice. Itmar, it was stated, Reb Chanina Omer, Mazel Machkim, Mazel Ma'ashir, V'yesh Mazel Yisrael. Very interesting. So Reb Chanina says, look, as we just learned from Reb Chanina, he was going into all these details about the different signs and how they affect a person and their life. So Reb Chanina clearly says what? Mazel Machkim, Mazel Ma'ashir. Signs are able to make people smart. Signs are able to make people wealthy. V'yesh Mazel Yisrael. And the Jewish nation is as under the control of these signs as any other nation of the world. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ein Mazel Yisrael. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan says not true. Meaning by default, yes. By default, what Rabbi Chanina is saying is correct. And if, you're born in Mercury, so you'll have whatever things are relevant for being born in the sign of Mercury. However, you can daven. Says Rabbi Yochanan, a Yid can daven. And he can change the outcome of what his sign otherwise would have brought. And Rabbi Yochanan is consistent with his reasoning. The Amr Rabbi Yochanan minayin shemazel Yisrael. Says Rabbi Yochanan, how do we know that the Yidden do not or are not sort of like held down by their signs? They can pray and change it. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Koyamar Hashem, so said God, Al derech hagoyim al tilmadu. Do not learn from the ways of the nations. And do not fear the signs of the heavens. Because the other nations have to be fearful of the signs of the heavens. They have to be fearful, but not the Jews, because the Jews can pray to change those signs. Rav Savar in Mazel Yisrael. Also Rav agreed with Rabbi Yochanan that there is no Mazel for Yisrael. Or at least we are not forced into whatever implications of our Mazel. The Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Minayin She Mazel Yisrael, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, how do we know that there is no Mazel Yisrael? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, by Avram Avinu, Vayotze Oso Achutza, that the Eibishter took out Avram Avinu outside. Amar Avram Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Avram Avinu says to God, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world, Ben Beisi Yorish Osi. He says, look, Avram says to God, he says, look, my servant is going to inherit me and everything that I have. Eliezer, my servant, I don't have any children. He's going to inherit me. Amar Lo. So God said to Avram Avinu, Lav, not true. Ki im asher yetze mime'echa. Somebody who your own child is going to inherit you. Amar lefanav Ribono Shel Olam. So Avram Avinu says to God, he says, no, but Master of the world, that's not correct. With all due respect, Nistakalti b'tztagninus sheli. I looked at my constellations. Ve'eni roi leholid ben. It's just not going to happen. I looked at my constellations. I'm not a person who is going to have a child. Amar leitzei mi'tztagninus shelcha. So God says, no, forget about your your constellations. Go out from your constellations. She'ein mazel Yisrael. There's no constellations that are definitive when it comes to Israel. My daitech, dikoi tzedek b'mayrav. And then God continues. He says, Avram, why do you think that you're not going to be able to have any children? Is it because the constellation of Tzedek, which we said was Jupiter, is all the way in the west, and the west is too cold, and whatever it is, and you need to have children in the east? Well, God says, look, I am God after all, and He can just take Jupiter from the west and put it in the east. Problem solved. Have as many kids as you want. And this is what the pasuk says in Yeshaya. Miheir mimizrach tzedek yikreu l'raglo. Who shone forth from the east, and he took the constellation of Tzedek, which is Jupiter, and he sort of called it l'raglo on his behalf, on Avraham Avinu's behalf, and took it from the west, put it in the east, and now Avraham Avinu was able to have children. Shmuel Nami in Mazel Yisrael, and from a certain story with Shmuel, we also see that Shmuel was of the opinion that there is no Mazel Yisrael. The Shmuel the Avleit Havu Yasve, because Shmuel and Avleit, who was a non-Jewish astrologer, they were sitting together. And then there were people passing by to go to the swamp to collect reeds. Amalei Avleit Shmuel. So Avleit said to Shmuel, look, you see this guy over there? Well, he's going to go to collect his reeds, and he's never going to come back. A snake is going to bite him, and he's going to die. That is the end of that fellow. We are never going to see him again. Get one last good look, because that's all you're going to get. Amalei Shmuel, Ibar Yisraelu, Azul v'asi. Shmuel said, watch, if he's a Yid, he'll be back soon enough. Adi Yosef, Azul v'asi. And while they were still sitting there, guess what? Shmuel's prediction, at least, from the fact that, basically this guy came back. So he ended up avoiding the snake. So clearly, I guess he was Jewish, and clearly also he ended up avoiding the snake. So come Avleit, Shadya Litune. Avleit got up and he threw down this fellow's bundle out of his hand, this bundle of reeds that he collected. Ashkach bechivya de pasik ushdi betarte gove. And sure enough, he found in the bundle a snake that was sliced in half. Meaning, while this fellow was cutting the reeds, he didn't even know, but there was a snake on one of the reeds, and as he was cutting the reed, he cut the snake in half. And that was the snake that was going to kill him. Amalei Shmuel mayavadit. Shmuel said, wow, Mr. Fellow, what did you do to merit to be saved? He says, look, I'm part of this group, and every day we have a potluck, we collect all of our bread, all of our food together, and that's what we eat. And we eat it. And I noticed that this morning, there was somebody in the group who didn't have any food to contribute. And he was embarrassed. So I said, you know what, friends, I am going to be the one who collects all the food today. When I got to him and it was his turn to contribute, so I pretended to have taken food from him, but I didn't actually take food from him. So that he wouldn't be embarrassed. And instead, this fellow doubled his contribution in order to contribute for this fellow who didn't have anything to contribute. Amar le mitzvah vadit, and Shmuel says, wow, you just did a big mitzvah. Nafak Shmuel v'darash u'tztakatatzel mimaves. Shmuel went out and he expounded on the pasuk in Mishlei that says that tzedakah will save from death, right? Because obviously it saved this fellow from the snake. It doesn't just save you from a tragic death, it saves you mamish from death bichlal, as this fellow mamish was 100% saved from death. Rabbi Akiva nami in Mazel Yisrael. And we can also see from Rabbi Akiva that there's a story that shows that there's no Mazel Yisrael. Rabbi Akiva havile barta. Rabbi Akiva had a daughter. Amr le Kaldai, and these stargazers said to Rabbi Akiva, Hahu Yoma de Aila leve Ganana Tarik lachivya umisa. On the day of her wedding, a snake is going to bite her and she's going to die. Havadai gamil satuva. And Rabbi Akiva, didn't take these words lightly. He was very nervous about this. Hahu Yoma shakalta lemachbanta datsusa biguda. Now that day of her wedding, she took, after the wedding, she removed her pin and she stuck it into the wall. Isrami Asiv be'ene dechivya. And guess what happened? The snake was mamash right in the wall, right behind where she stuck in that pin, and the pin pierced the snake in its eye. Litzafra. And then the next morning, kikashaklala, when she removed the pin from the wall, havakasarich ve'asi chivya basra, well, this dead snake kind of got pulled out of the wall with this pin. This dead snake that was going to kill her and then got murdered. Omar la avua, her father said to her, Mayavadit, what did you do that you merited to be saved from death? Amrle, she said to him, Bifanya, well, last night, Asa Anya Kara Abava, there was a poor person who came to the wedding and he was knocking on the gate. And everybody was so busy at the wedding that nobody heard this poor person. Ka'imna, I got up, shakalti liristinoi, and I took my food, obviously that was given to me, yahavte nile, and I gave it to this poor fellow. Amr la, Rabbi Akiva said to her, mitzvah avadet, wow, you just did a big mitzvah. Nafak Rabbi Akiva v'darash, u'tztakatatzel mimaves. Rabbi Akiva went out and he expounded on the pasuk in Mishlei that tzedakah will save you from death, v'lo mimisa mishuna, ela mimisa atzma, not just from a tragic death, but mamish, there won't be any death at all. And we can also learn from a story of Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak that there's no mazal li Yisrael. The image of Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak amri la kaldai brich ganova hava, because the stargazers told Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak's mother that your son is going to be a thief. Oy vei lo shavakte galuye reishe. So she didn't want her son to be a thief. And in the end, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, as we saw quite a while back, that he was the Mari de Uvda. He had very, very good midas. So clearly, somehow, they managed to avoid what the stargazers said was going to be. How did that happen? So, because Lo Shavikte Galuye Reishe, she would not allow Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak to ever go out without a head covering. Amra le, she said to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Kasi Reishech, Kiechi de Tahave Elach Eimsa de Shmaya, cover your head at all times so that you should have the fear of God upon you at all times. Uvay Rachme, and you should also daven all the time. Lo Avayada Amai Ka Amra le, and Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak never knew why his mother was so paranoid, why she would say to always cover his head and to daven all the time. Yom Echad Yosef Kagaris to Sedikla. One time he was sitting and he was learning under a palm tree, a date palm tree. Nofal Glima Me'ila V'Reishe, and somehow his head covering fell off. Dali Eine, and at that time he looked up and he saw these dates at the top of the palm tree. Chazal Dikla Al Me Yitzre Salik Paske Lekibur B'Shine. So he saw this palm tree and he saw the dates at the top of the palm tree, and his Yetzer Hara was so strong that Imamish climbed all the way up to the top of the palm tree and he ripped off a bundle of dates with his teeth so that he can eat them, and it wasn't his palm tree, so he was basically stealing. So at that point it was clear that, wow, imagine if he wasn't always covering his head and davening, he mamish would be on the path of the thieves. But because of Ein Mazal Yisrael, even though that is the default of what he would be, you can overcome that and override that. Friends, that was Daf Kuf Nun Vav Masechta Shabbos. It was pretty interesting. So at the beginning we just started off with that machlokas between, basically a continuation of the machlokas between Rebbe and Rebbe Yossi, Rebbe Yehuda, about kneading doughs. Rebbe is more strict, Rebbe Yossi, Rebbe Yehuda is more lenient. And then this basically led to this whole discussion about Yesh Mazel Yisrael or Ein Mazel Yisrael. So we have Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, whose opinion was that, Yesh Mazal Yisrael, that there are Mazal Yisrael, although we didn't see if Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi would say whether or not you can override them, but he said that depending on what day of the week you are, that will have what day of the week you are born, that will have an effect on your, on you. Rabbi Chanina said it's not about the day of the week, it's about the hour of the day. And then we have all sorts of rabbis like Rabbi Yochanan and Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva and Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, who demonstrate that actually there's no Mazal Yisrael, which means that even though, sure, the hour or the day of the week or whatever it might be, there's all sorts of astrological implications or things that affect things about your personality, but you can override them with davening and wearing a yarmulke and stuff like that. Alright, friends, that was Daf Kuf Nun Vav. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoy your day. Peace out, Chevra.